This show's been brought to you by Anarchy Wear. They are a great organization who sells clothing, banners like what's behind me, hats, all kinds of stuff. And they're absolutely amazing. Not only do they put out awesome content, they also make awesome things like this. And if you're a Spooner fan, you have this. Let me stand up. I didn't sign shit. Lysander Spooner. If you're a Spooner fan, you'll totally understand. If you're not a Spooner fan, get in my DMs and I'll let you know, because he's one of the greatest to ever do it. This flag behind me, enemy of the state. Man, that's Murray Rothbard, the greatest to ever do it. I'm a Rothbardian. He is my favorite economist. He is my favorite anarchist, libertarian, whatever you want to call him. Fantastic material that he's put out. I highly recommend you read his books, but Anarchy Wear has everything from bold to cute and modest. You know what I mean? So like, check them out at Anarchy Wear on X, aka Twitter, at anarchywear.ca on anything meta, being Facebook and or Instagram. They're awesome. I love those guys. They're doing great things, and I highly recommend you follow them and get some goods from them, man. I love everything I have from these guys, and they're amazing. And let me throw this in for you. If you use promo code BudsnReality, Buds, letter N, reality. I know you know how to spell. If you're watching this show, you're pretty smart. I know you are. Anyways, get at them, get yourself some gear. And if you use the promo code BudsnReality, you will get yourself 15% off. Who doesn't like a deal? So get at them, check them out. They are great, awesome people. Thank you for the sponsor, and let's get on with the show. Welcome to the BudsnReality Show. I'm Sean Collins, your favorite anarchist. And we have somebody special back in the house, somebody that I actually went to high school with. We have a history. Mr. Will Huff, how you doing, man?
Hello, hello. Hope everything's going well up there in Michigan.
Yeah, you can say that, I suppose.
Yeah, we're about 55, 60 degrees here, so the weather's at least better down here. And we're a little freer. We don't have as many restrictions that you guys have been having in regulation. So it's nice down here in Arkansas.
Oh, so you are in Arkansas right now.
Right now I'm in Arkansas. Yeah.
I was going to ask you where you were, because you are a man well-traveled. And actually the show, actually a year ago, we did a show together. It popped up on a Facebook memory, and we called it Well-Traveled because you are well-traveled. So
I said Johnny Cash song, I've been everywhere, man. And so I'm a hired gun. People want me to come in and, consult, do photography, do videography, take care of, run campaigns, and wherever I'm called to. But right now I'm in Arkansas, and we're working with a company called avii.org to get rid of the voting machines, just because of how vulnerable they are and how easy they are to manipulate. So we're working on getting hand-marked paper ballots, hand count audits before certification. And so that's what I'm working on right now.
Well, let's talk about that real quick, because, you kind of rolled this thing out. It's the Voter Integrity Initiative, correct?
Yeah, Arkansas Voter Integrity Initiative. We're switching it up to America Voter Integrity Initiative in the next little bit.
But it's kind of taken off, right? It's kind of taken off in at least a couple of cities and or towns, if you want to call them, whatever you want to call them. But it has, correct?
Yeah. We actually, last night, we're in a county, it's called Searcy County, Arkansas. We went to, they were practicing their hand count. So in Arkansas, by law, you have to run the ballots through an electronic tabulator. But we're saying that shouldn't be the end all be all count. You need to audit to just make sure the machine was honest and the right people are getting elected. And that's what they're doing. So we were doing a hand count training last night. We're using technology in good ways. It's got cell phones that hang over. They look down at the ballot. Every ballot is put on here. Somebody calls out the name. People can sit with their own scorecard at each TV and keep their own score to make sure their candidate was getting the right votes and the counts match. And it's already been counted by a machine, so they get double tabulate that. So we're just going for transparency, and that's what we're working on. And I don't see why people would be so against transparency. They just want these machines and their code to say, yep, that's the winner, and that's easy. And that's why they don't want to go back to the hand-marked ballot style. In Arkansas, it's different than Michigan. Everything is touchscreen. You
Okay.
don't get to circle your candidate or your resolutions or any of that. You have to touch screen. Then it prints out something. On the top is all barcodes. And on the bottom, it shows who you voted for. But we have no way of verifying that that barcode is actually what's on the words on the ballot. And just in Pennsylvania in November, the barcodes and the words didn't match. They were, I mean, everything was all wonky because it was programmed wrong. So that's what
Well,
we're working on.
you know, in a world where computer hacks are quite the thing, I have been hacked before personally, but also we have hacks coming in from all over the world, such as Russia. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Russians are the ultimate computer hacks, and the WEF, the WEF, has has stated that there could be a hack or a a cyber attack coming this year. Um, this is a great idea. I think what you guys are doing over there in Arkansas is absolutely stellar. I don't have anything bad to say about it because you got to bring back the old school. I think you have to because the way computers are, it's too easy to get hacked by outside intruders, and it's
And
happening every day.
inside of machines is software, which means it's not permanent. It can be changed and changed back, and nobody would ever notice. So we've worked with Dr. Andrew Appel out of Princeton University. I talked to him actually yesterday on the phone. We've worked with University of California, Berkeley, University of Iowa, professors from all over. They're all computer experts, and they're the ones Congress calls for election security. Every one of them say it needs to be a hand marked ballot because the voter intent is accurately represented if it's a pen to paper. With the touchscreen, you don't know if the voter actually got their intent captured. The next thing is audit the machine. Make sure that tabulator acted correctly and that the right people are getting elected. And that's what we're going with, what all the experts say. But it's the people in power who want to change it. They want status quo. They fight us on everything just because it might ruin status quo if paper ballots are implemented. Because maybe in the back of their mind, maybe I did get chosen and not elected really. What if it affects me and I don't get elected next time?
Well, I mean, but that's the name of the game is getting elected over and over and
Getting
over.
elected. It's
This
not
is why
representing
we
people.
this is why we have people like Cocaine Mitch who have been there for, since the dinosaur era. We have Chuck Schumer who has been there since the dinosaur era. People
You
like
got Pelosi, who has been, I think
Pelosi,
1985 is when
and
she
she's
went in.
back. She's back. What the hell,
But,
man? Like
but
the
did you see her trading in the last little bit? So
what?
apparently she bought a ton of NVIDIA. And then a month later, the government made a contract with NVIDIA and their stock went way up. So she, it looks like, had prior information of what was going to be happening. And then she benefited financially by giving the contracts to the one she owned stock in.
Which, by the way, she probably had somebody in her ear saying, "Yes, this is a good grab. Go do it," because this is how the stock market works.
Yeah,
You
I love NVIDIA. It's actually my favorite stock. And so, but she didn't buy it early when they were getting into the AI and all that stuff. If she would have gotten it early, it would have looked natural. But just weeks before she gives a contract to this company, man, that shouldn't be allowed. They should be allowed to buy and trade. They should only have like 401ks and bonds and those things that are static. They can't buy, they can't sell while they're in office. They shouldn't, and their immediate family shouldn't be able to.
Well, I believe you are correct as well. Because you have access as a politician, and we're not just talking about Democrats at this point.
No,
As
no,
a
no. Because here
politician,
in Arkansas, French Hill, the Republican, sold all of his stock in one company, and then all these negative things came out from the government on them a couple months later. And because he sold, he ended up not losing like 25% of his money.
but who is in here in his ear telling him, "Hey, we need to get out of this." This is
Well, they're making the law that you would know. Like if I'm saying, hey, I'm about to make a law that says Boeing can no longer make airplanes, I'm going to go sell my Boeing stock though before I make this law.
and they do this every day. They do it every day, all day. It doesn't stop. And I tell people all the time, like, if you're one of those people who do invest in the stock market, which I don't believe in at all, I don't think anybody should be investing in fiat currency whatsoever, especially at this standpoint in America. But if you are one of those people who decide you want to gamble, which it is 100%
Oh,
gambling,
it's just gambling.
follow what Pelosi's doing. Whatever Pelosi's doing, you should be doing.
There's
Seriously.
actually a or a Twitter account. It's like Pelosi stock tracker. So you know what she's doing, so you can go do it. And it keeps track of her buys and sells. So that way you know what to go invest in.
And that's how they do it. This is dude, there's nothing new under the sun. They talking about it in Ecclesiastes in the Bible. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. But dude, check this out, man. Let's give everybody a quick bio about what you've been up to over the last year so we can make sense out of what we're about to talk
Well,
out today. Get it out, Junior. You know what I'm saying?
so in the last year, I've been mostly in Arkansas, but I've been hired by other groups to be advertising and messaging for different things in Wisconsin. I think I've had a budget of like $500,000 to spend in Wisconsin doing different things in election integrity and election security up there. Down here, buying ads, selling ads, designing. We've been to Arizona in this month. We went to record a hand count. They did a hand count election for Maricopa County GOP, which had like 3,000 votes, and they showed how fast you can hand count the elections. We recorded that. So that's the realm I've been working in election security, while also consulting for different candidates and things of that sort who are running for different offices, mostly in the Republican circle.
Right. And I can't completely damn you for working with the Republicans. Now everybody has to make a life and have a living or whatever. I don't necessarily agree with, 95% of what they're spitting these days. But,
the National Party, yeah, I mean, they're just seem like they don't even care what their voters want.
They don't care about nothing, dude.
Yeah.
The Republican Party, as a former Republican, I am a former neoconservative. I am a former Bush supporter. I'm a former war supporter. I got behind the Iraq and Afghanistan bullshit. I literally was angry when people spoke out against what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the reason I am what I am.
Yeah, you hated the Dixie Chicks.
Earl had to die, damn it.
Yeah, but see, they came out against Bush in the war, and all of a sudden they couldn't play their songs on the radio anymore. They were done. But, speaking of the Republicans, though, one of the things that happened since the last time we talked is, I know Kari Lake and her circle. And after we did our interview, I was in CPAC, and Kari Lake was there with her husband, Jeff. And we were talking, and she said, somebody came to my door and offered a blank check for me to get out of politics for 2 years. She said she told him to go kick rocks and all that, and that she had the story about it. And what we didn't know is it had been recorded because she has security in her house that records everything. And so in the last week, they actually released it, and it was the Republicans who were trying to bribe her with a blank check to just get out, give up her positions, don't do the America First stuff, don't fight for the border, don't fight for election reform, don't fight for anti-war, don't do this stuff. Just get out and let our hand-picked candidate go run for Senate. And so that happened since the last time we talked, and now it just became big news last week.
But it didn't become big news. That's the thing. Mainstream is not touching
No, it's big news in political circles.
Yes, it is big news in political circles. You sent me that recording between Jason DeWitt, yes?
Yeah, no, Jeff DeWitt.
Jeff DeWitt. I'm sorry. My bad. So Jeff DeWitt goes in and literally offers Kari Lake. He said,
whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
Name it. Name
the price.
Your
price. His exact words were name your price to get out of the way. Oh, which, by the way, they want her out of the way to get Trump out of the way, which is mind-boggling. By the way, I'm no Trump supporter, you guys, so back off real quick. But we call corruption as we see it, and we will always do that on here.
Yeah, since the last time we talked, I actually met President Trump. I was at Mar-a-Lago, and
Oh,
I
I
think I
saw the
was,
pictures, dude. You're having a good time
yeah.
there.
And so he's actually a really nice guy. And he turned to my wife, he turned to Gracie and he said, he pointed at me, he said, he's a good guy, isn't he? So I get like, yeah, he's a good guy. President Trump said that about me. So that's,
Well, I remember your post or tweet or whatever it was anymore, where you're like, I'm wearing the same suit as Trump, except his
yeah,
is
yeah, we
much
called
more
ahead.
expensive.
Yeah, his was way more expensive. He called ahead. He's like, hey man, I'm wearing blue and red. You want to go? No, it was such a weird coincidence, but it was a good experience because you get to meet a president, that's pretty cool.
Right.
And he ends up being a cool guy, chill, relax, and just funny and easygoing. So that ends up being pretty cool. So
But like it showcases that, how evil government really is and how much corruption there really is.
the Republican Party. This
Well,
was the Republican Party. Jeff DeWitt is the head of the Arizona Republican Committee, the
he was
Arizona
their
GOP.
chair. He was the Republican chair of Arizona.
Yeah. And
That was
so
his title.
somebody felt comfortable enough to ask him to bribe, and he went and did it. So that shows the moral character because people know not to ask me to go try to bribe someone because I'm not going to go along with it. So they must have confidence that you would go do it and keep it secret. And that's one of the most telling parts. Jeff DeWitt had a chance to be a hero because Kari said, just tell us who's doing it. Oh, some powerful people back east. She said, no, let's name names.
Let me stop you there, though. Let me stop you there. How east are we talking? Are we talking Richmond, north of Richmond? Are we talking further east than that? That's my question.
Yeah. Or is it just East Phoenix? We don't, who knows? but the back east, I would assume power players in DC have their handpick of who they want for a senator. But Jeff DeWitt didn't say, here's who did it. No, he said, I can't talk about it because my car will probably blow up. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I get in my car, turn the keys and boom.
He did say something like that, though.
Yeah. That was, so this is the Republican Party who's supposed to be the law and order and free market, free elections, free this and that, trying to put their thumb on the scale of elections. We see it here in Arkansas. They always clear the slate to make sure their favorite candidates are the only one running in primaries. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people have gotten these offers.
Isn't that how Huckabee got elected, though?
Well, Governor Huckabee, she had Tim Griffin and Leslie Rutledge in the race, and they ended up getting Trump endorsements and left for different office races to clear the slate for her. And so, I mean, that's just seems how it goes is you get a little incentive to get out of this race and we'll take care of you in other ways.
Well, the fact of the matter is that, this is showcased right now, and it's, it's very convenient that it's 2024, it's an election year. But the fact of the matter is this happens all the time. And it's not with the Republican Party. It's also the Democrat Party as well. And we saw that, for instance, in two different presidential elections, in my humble opinion, which isn't so humble sometimes, but like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders in 2016, I firmly believe in my heart, would have beat Donald Trump in an election. This show is sponsored by Infinite Zeal Syndicate. You can follow him on Twitter @_Infinite Zeal. He is a great liberty-minded fella that just wants to share the message of liberty and also has fantastic merch like this hat I'm wearing right now. You see me wear it on every show. He's a great gentleman, and I highly suggest you give him a follow because he's one of the good ones, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's get on with the show. But really, in my humble opinion, I believe that Bernie Sanders would have beat Donald Trump in 2016. And I think he would have done it by a landslide. I think the mass majority of young people and leftists were totally on board with him. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, wait a minute. We know you love this guy, but we're going to put her out here instead. And they did. And if I were a Bernie supporter and or Democrat at that point, I would have been fucking livid, dude. I would have been.
Especially when you found out they were feeding Hillary the debate questions ahead of time. They were stacking the deck as much as they could. And then the super delegates getting to decide most of the states and who got on the ballot. It seems like it was a hose job in the Democrat primary easily.
And then they did it again in 2020, though. Bernie was leading again. Dude, you guys can look this shit up. I don't even want to give you my sources because all you got to do is go on Google and find out. And Google's the most government-fed propaganda bullshit machine there ever was. But it'll tell you the way it is.
There.
And Bernie Sanders was once again leading in the polls and tearing shit up. But they're like, wait a minute, you guys, we're going to put Biden out there. And once again, if I were a Democrat, I would be furious.
Mm-hmm.
Furious. You know,
you should be. And just like everyone should be furious that Kari Lake tried to get bribed by the Republicans to get out of a race. You should be wanting everything to be free and fair and the will of the people. But those in power and those with money don't want the will of the people to be represented. They want the power to keep feeding their checkbooks, to keep their stock going, to keep their bank at maximum profits. That's where it's all coming from.
Well, the one thing that there's more than one thing that we agree on, but
one of the things
we do agree on is that who holds power? Who holds power in America and all over the world? And it's not government. It's not Democrats, nor is it Republicans. It's the central banks. And so the central banks are putting out there whoever they deem fit for the job to put more money in their pockets. I don't think people realize how vile the system really is.
Well, just look at the quantitative easing. What that means is the central banks are getting to choose companies to put money into. That's not a free market. That's a market that's being controlled with a thumb. So you could say, you know what? I want Chase Manhattan. I want Bank of America. I want these guys to make sure they don't fail. So let's just keep buying their stock, keeping their prices up, and keep them going. That's the government getting to decide. Well, actually, they're not even the government, which is so mind-blowing. Like, they are literally not a part of the government. But they get to decide which companies are going to blow up in the stock market a lot of times because they're just get to give them money and buy it with money's all imaginary anyway, but they're just pumping it in and say these guys, and it keeps them afloat. But
I think you have a little more libertarian in you than you show. I really do.
Well, look at what happens in corporations. The corporations are run by boards, and almost all the major corporations today, their board members are bankers. They're people from the main banks. Everything becomes a spreadsheet, bottom line, this, that. No regard to the humans in the corporations or the effects on humanity. They look at bottom line spreadsheets. Everything's a 1 and a 0, cut here, cut there, cut here, cut there. Like UPS today, what they cut, 1,200 jobs, I think, today. But to them, it's not cutting jobs. It's changing that spreadsheet. And it doesn't mean it.
Fine, Will.
yeah, it's perfect.
Fine. Act natural. What are you talking about?
There's a book by a guy named Simon Sinek. It's called I forget. Infinite. And it's about having an infinite company, corporations that were built to last, things like that. You know, Johnson and Johnson, Coca-Cola, things like that. For a long time, you had these kind of companies running things, and then in the 70s, when the bottom line economics, trickle down, all that kind of started, corporations flipped with the banks in charge, and now corporations come, go. There's no legacy corporations that have been lasting since, like they did with Coke and Johnson & Johnson and things like that.
Except the RNC and the DNC, who happen to be some of the largest corporations in the entire world.
But they've been here since 1865. I'm talking about newer ones. But it's all about the profit loss and quick exit, get out, and just sell it off.
But the RNC and the DNC are large corporations. They're huge, actually. Yeah. And people don't look at them like this, but they own a monopoly on almost everything because it keeps them elected. It's all a back scratching contest, which they did talk about in that phone conversation between Lake and DeWitt. He's like, oh, it's a back scratching contest and blah, blah, blah.
You can't scratch their back, so they don't want you in.
But you know, one thing I will say about Kari Lake and her character, okay, and I don't know her personally. I've never met her. But when you and I've always said on this show that everyone has a price. Everyone has a price, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that woman on a phone conversation that was recorded where the gentleman said, hey, who happened to be DeWitt, the chair of the Arizona Republican Party, says to Kari Lake, hey, name your price.
Name it. Just give me a counter
name your
offer.
price. Name your price. And she looked at him, or I don't know if she looked at him.
But we're imagining it. Yeah. No, he was there in person. He showed up at the door.
You know, and she says, I can't be bought. That's a big deal to me. That really is a big deal to me and really shows a ton of character about her. Because
You know,
I don't know if I couldn't fall for name your price. Dude, somebody was like, name your, I'm poor though.
yeah.
I live,
Stop your podcast, man. Name your price. You're pointing out too many truths. Stop. How much to get you to quit exposing the truth?
like that's a really hard situation to just turn down because money is everything. People say money can't buy happiness. That's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally
yeah, because when you don't have money, you have a lot more to worry about, and when you have less to worry about, you can be happier.
But when you have a lot of money, you have a lot of power and can make the rules.
Oh yeah.
Right. So this is what we see in government. And the fact that she was like, no way, we're not doing this in America first. Well, the whole America first thing, I beg to differ on that a lot, just because Republicans have showed many times that they are not America first. And
the National Committee and the people who vote and make the laws, they often just go against the platform of what it's supposed to be a Republican.
Well, because it's all about currying votes. It's all about, you know, raising enough money for whatever you believe in. Like, think of the border right now. Think about what's happening in Texas right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people on the left are like, yeah, bring them in, man, bring them all in, which I am an open borders guy. We'll get into that in a little bit though, because I have caveats to that. But the fact of the matter is that nobody gives a fuck about what's happening in the border. They've had ample opportunities to fix this, both sides. You know, during the Trump administration, they had the presidency, the House. And the Senate all at the same time for 2 years, right? Before the Democrats took over.
Yep.
They could have fixed the border. They didn't. Same thing with the Obama administration. They had Obama, they had the House and the Senate. They could have fixed the border. They didn't. The fact
they could have also done away with charging people for college because they had it all. Their talking point was, let's make college affordable. They didn't do anything with it then.
Abortions, crying out loud.
Yeah, let's go back to the 2017 when Trump first got in. Before, in like 2016 and 2015, the Republicans had presented, I think, like 36 bills to end Obamacare, like 17 bills for the border, things they know weren't going to pass because they weren't in power. As soon as they got a president who said, I will sign anything you send me about the border, ending Obamacare, this and that, now all of a sudden the Republicans couldn't get it passed, or they wouldn't even submit it to the floor. So it's all lip service from the two political parties.
Well, because it's all about raising money and currying votes. And this is one thing I like to point out as an anarchist or libertarian, whatever you want to call me. I've kind of moved from the libertarian to the anarchist side of things, which, oh my God, the anarchists, I should be burning down cities. I know, guys. I know I'm just a horrible person.
You're so evil.
But anarchists are here to literally keep people honest, okay? And Larry Sharp, one of the greatest libertarian voices of all time, even said, hey, we need anarchists in our party to keep us from being, you know, Republican and or Democrat light. Now, imagine somebody like me and the rest of my tribe, you know, calling out Republicans and Democrats. And this is what we're doing right now, like saying, hey, you've had your opportunities to fix education. You've had complete control of office multiple times. You didn't do it. The Republicans didn't do it either. You know, the Democrats, they're, you know, for all the single issue voters who are like, oh my God, the abortions, and we need to protect our bodily autonomy and blah, blah, blah. First off, I do believe abortion is an infanticide.
Mm-hmm.
But because I rock a dick and nuts in between my legs, it's not my place. So I stay out of that. It's not for me. It's, you know, I, at a certain point, I believe it's vile, whatever, but I need to stay out of that because I'm a man. God and that woman will sort out that sin later.
What if you were in Germany in 1943 and you say, well, I don't wear a star on my chest, so I need to stay out of that?
They're going to kill me then.
So, but that's the thing with when you don't take a position on something that you think is wrong, like something is being killed or murdered. It's almost like 1941 saying, "Man, I don't have a position. I'm not Jewish. I don't care."
I understand. As a Christian, I understand. Like I'm a Southern Baptist boy, dude. Like if you know, the abortion thing is huge within the Christian community. But it's
we have to break down the difference between liberals and conservatives on abortion. And the main thing is, for Christian conservatives, abortion is killing a living being. To the people who are okay with abortion, it's not killing a living being because they've never been born, they've never experienced life, they've never taken a breath. And if you break it down right to there, you see where the separation is, and you're not going to change minds either way.
My personal belief is if that child can live outside of any type of breathing tubes or anything like that, and it can just be born, we have a problem. Mm-hmm. If it's before that, not so much. That's my personal thing.
Yeah. You know, that's the great thing about God and grace is if God knows you're being honest, I think you're going to be judged on that you were following his word, doing what was right, and doing what you were told in your heart, you follow it, that what's being put in you. So if you believe like, okay, it's not, abortion isn't bad until this point because XYZ, you know, we aren't the ones that get to judge it at all. And Jesus has already died for anything we've ever.
That's why I say, let that sin be up to that woman and God. Government has no place in that.
No, because you and I would rather regulate somebody else's vice, somebody else's sin, but ignore our own. Like, yeah, don't touch ours. Just go look at theirs, or vice versa.
Because there's so many Republicans who are like pro-life and stop the abortion and save the babies, but they're all for like going to the Middle East and blowing everybody up, and killing innocent people and shit like that. Like,
and they're all for the death penalty being super fast, even if some people might be falsely convicted. That's okay. That's fine.
You know, there's so many grievances within government that I could call out, but the fact of the matter is that they don't fix these things on purpose, because if we were all holding hands and singing Kumbaya,
they have no power over us.
They have no power over us. So they need a reason to
That's what's happening in France right now. They're all coming together for a common cause, and it's scaring the EU because everyone is coming together saying, hey, we have major issues. It's more important to solve those than us bickering about other little things. And they don't want the ants coming together against the grasshoppers. They don't want that happening.
By the way, God bless people like Claire Daly and people like Mick Wallace who are in the EU, who happen to be from Ireland, my people, you know, speaking out against everything that is happening right now, like everything. And in the United States, this is what people don't understand, is the United States is literally making enemies with people in the EU at this moment by their foreign policy.
Yeah, we've done that forever, though. None of these issues are really black and white, though. So there's like this de facto agreement that the United States are going to be the world police because everything is traded in the US dollar. So Europe says, like, it's kind of like, we don't have to spend our money. You guys will protect us, but we'll make sure we use your dollar for trade, for oil, for this and that. And so that ends up making us the bad guy because we're going into all these countries trying to be the world police on everything. Like, we just had people killed in Jordan. When have we declared war in Jordan and Syria?
What the fuck were we doing in there in the first place? Nobody's
exactly.
asking that question. Nobody is asking that question.
Well, we are, and I saw. I was talking to Wendy Rogers, senator from Arizona, yesterday, and she brought it up. Like we had people killed in Jordan, and we're not even supposed to be there. They were National Guard. They're supposed to be in the state. They were in Jordan. Why? So, hold on 1 minute. We just got the doorbell.
Okay, we'll be back.
Yeah.
So the United States just thinks they can like literally invade foreign countries. And by invade, I really mean invade that, because none of those countries wants the United States there. We literally have, well, we have over 900 bases throughout the world, but 700 and something of them are in the Middle East alone.
What is that meme about Iran? And it says Iran. If Iran didn't want conflict, why did they put their country so close to the U.S. bases?
Yeah, but like, you know, I don't want to sound like a pro-Trump guy. I'm really not a pro-Trump guy, and when I do talk about him,
there are policies by Donald Trump that I absolutely love. There are some great policies that he went through. There are some I don't agree with at all, but there are some that I absolutely love.
Absolutely.
For me, it's actually the majority. I haven't given up on him mostly because of the fact, like, why are they coming after him so hard? Why are they bringing down the law on him? Because
I can tell you why.
Let's go.
I can tell you exactly why. Because Donald Trump in the very beginning, and this goes well beyond all the Chappelle shit you see where like he called out, you know, Hillary's friends and all them for their tax bracket and how they do taxes. This goes way beyond that. They're coming after Donald Trump because he spoke out against the Iraqi war and told exactly why he was against it. And it had nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction, okay? This is why they went after Trump. It's because the guy is anti-war to a point, okay? The guy didn't start any new wars, but
we did drone a bunch of people.
He did escalate Yemen. He did escalate Syria and probably even Libya. You know, look it up, you know, follow Scott Horton. If you guys want to know anything that has anything to do with the Middle East, just follow Scott Horton. The guy's work is amazing. It might not be amazing to some people from the right because, you know, he's speaking out what they were doing, but hey, such is life. But anyways.
But wouldn't you want your party to be called out on BS? Like, I don't you can't just blindly go along with anything. And if you do, you're a problem. You need your side called out too. I don't know if I want people to say, hey, Will, let's take it back to Christianity. Will, you're not being a good Christian because of, or a good Christian example because you're sharing pornography on Twitter and this and that. I would it would make me think like, okay, you know, I as a personally want to be a better Christian always. So I would look at that like I'd want the criticism that makes you better, and the party should want that. Yeah. By the way, what are you drinking?
Oh,
what are you drinking there?
What I'm drinking right now? Well,
you sipping on some scissor?
Mr. Will Huff. Every once in a while, the tree of liberty needs to be washed down with the blood of tyrants.
Is that literal blood? Are you vampiring on me now?
I might be vampiring on you. Actually, this is a great company. The blood of tyrants, just by their labeling alone, makes them amazing. But, you know, they are literally out there fighting the good fight against tyranny. And they also have the tier of tyrants, which is a Pinot Grigio. This happens to be a Merlot. You can find their stuff on drinkbloodoftyrants.com on their website. And if you use promo code BudsnReality, you can get yourself 10% off their order.
Do you sparkle after drinking the blood of tyrants? Do you become like the sparkly vampires?
You know what? I'm feeling really good after drinking the blood of tyrants, and it's making me really want to speak out against the tyrants.
So what's the difference in like their flavors versus other wines you've had? Is there?
Well, let me explain the Merlot to you. It's going to be a little.
But I don't drink alcohol, so this is.
Merlot is more of a little bit of dry but buttery flavor taste, if that makes any sense. If you're a wine person, you know, I actually worked in the service industry for almost 20 years. I know my wine, I know my scotch. This is a great product. I really enjoy it. I'm not just saying that because they're advertising through my show or whatever.
Because you can use the code Buds in Reality and get a discount.
BudsnReality, and buy BudsnReality, just like Guns N' Roses with the letter N, BUDS, letter N, reality, REALITY. If you can't spell and you're watching this show, what the hell are you even doing watching this show? I figured you.
So drinkthebloodofTyrants.com. Is that what
drinkbloodofTyrants.com and enjoy a glass with me. Come on, you guys. This is great.
I'll tip my soda with you here.
Well, they also have energy tea, which is an alcoholic, and they have all kinds of merch. They all shirts, whatever you need, they have it all.
You say they're standing up for like the values you agree with, which is good to support companies like that. But how do they actually stand up? What do they do to support the cause?
Well, I mean, hey, if you're saying, hey, drink the blood of tyrants, you have my support immediately. Because here's the catch, you guys. Tyranny's everywhere and it's taken over. We are a totalitarian dictatorship. This is no longer America. We see it time and time again, and it must end at a certain point. We have to stop it. And I will align myself with anyone who is willing to bring liberty forward. And I don't care if it's a Republican like you. I don't care. Dude, there's Democrats out there who believe in liberty. There's still blue dog Democrats out there. They're happening. It's happening in New Hampshire right now, which is exactly why Nikki Haley was so close to Trump in that New Hampshire primary, is because 40% of their voters are unaffiliated voters. They've seen enough of this shit.
A lot in different states, like the unaffiliated, a lot of times people remove their affiliation to go and be part of another party's primary, which is they have open primaries where you don't have to be a member of the group. To me, the open should be the general election. That's where you're choosing your candidate. The Libertarian, the Republican, the Democrat, the Green Party, all of those guys are on, and you can vote for anyone you want. But to me, to vote for a Republican in the primary should be Republicans doing it. And I equate it to this. Imagine if before the Lions played the Rams got to choose who was going to be the quarterback for the Lions. You wouldn't want that. You don't want the other team having a say in who's your quarterback, and the primary is to choose your quarterback. And that's why, I know you're more for the open primary system, but I'm for the closed. Let libertarians choose theirs, let Republicans choose theirs, let Democrats choose theirs, and then you get to choose the best out of those options in November.
Yeah, but the problem is that third parties don't get their voice in these things usually.
Well, that's where we got to. That's where the concept of there's no chance has to change, because there's never going to be a chance if you don't take a chance and vote for the candidate you think is best. I hear all the time people say in November, well, I would like Ron Paul as president, but he has no shot, so I'm going to vote for Mitt Romney. That makes no sense. Like, if you want your candidate, go vote for your candidate, and I think it would change. But that all goes back to what you talked about, the monopolies, because people don't get to participate in any debates on the national TV. They're controlled by the RNC and the DNC.
It's all an illusion of choice. And Lars Mapsten, who is just on, Lars is my homeboy, dude. He's been on my show 3 times now.
Yeah, I saw him at Freedom Fest in Memphis.
He's great, and I love what he's doing. I really do love what he's doing. But he pointed out something to me on the Kim Iverson show that I did not know, which caters to you have the illusion of choice, thing. Did you know that in 2020, 1,500 people ran for president? 1,500 people
crazy.
In 2020 ran for
president. But my ballot had 7, I think.
Do you not think out of 1,500 people, we had 2 choices that were better than Donald Trump and or Joe Biden?
And look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden had, 6, 7 people per rally? The people didn't like him. So if you would have been able to have someone else out front that the people liked, it would have made a lot more difference. I hear, people who don't want to say, well, there was election malfeasance in 2020 or no, there wasn't. But the fact of the matter is 81 million people voting for Joe Biden wasn't for Joe Biden. It was for the D. They were voting for that letter, not because of him. It was that party is going to run, and they didn't want Donald Trump if 81 million people actually did vote.
You're not going to sell me that 81 million people voted for Biden. You'll never sell that to me. I don't
It's,
believe that in a million years. I don't believe that in 1 year. I don't believe that in any years. I think that just like every other election, though, I don't think Trump beat Hillary in 16. I personally don't.
I do, because again, if it would have been Bernie Sanders had enthusiasm and all that. Trump had that from all different colors, all different kinds of people, independents, 10, 15,000 people showing up to stadiums, rooting for him, cheering for him, like Bernie had in the Democrat, but they didn't let Bernie get out of the Democrat. So Bernie and Trump would have been, I think, totally different. There would have been enthusiasm. People very much dislike Hillary Clinton. So they didn't want to go vote for her. And that's where Jill Stein got a lot of votes, because people just didn't like Hillary. Jill Stein's votes would have been Bernie
Johnson,
votes.
the libertarian, who I did not vote for. I voted for Trump in 16. I
Mm-hmm.
was not a Gary Johnson supporter at all. He said some things that really rubbed me the wrong way. And to be quite frank, I was like, you know what? Anything but a Democrat at that point, because I'm a never Dem. I am a never Dem in my entire life. This Southern Baptist boy was not raised like that, But
What's funny is my first vote was for Jeffrey Feiger for governor. So I registered as a Democrat in Michigan because my family came from Arkansas and they were all Democrats, Southern Democrats.
wow.
So when it was, my birthday was November 1st. And so 1998, I was registered to vote, and the election was that next Tuesday. So I got to vote, and it was Jeffrey Feiger. I voted Democrats. And I remember I was actually a poll worker that day too. So I went and I worked the poll. My first ever election that I was 18, I worked all day in the election to make sure that it ran right. And I was the Democrat, and there was the Republican. You had to double check everything. And it was funny. He's like, "Why are you a Democrat?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "I don't know what I am. I just," excuse me. I said, "I just voted for who had that letter because I remember my grandpa always saying we vote Democrat." And so I was registered to vote, and I just voted that, and that was it. But I like Jeffrey Feiger because I like Dr. Kevorkian. I was a Dr. Kevorkian fan because with the assisted suicide thing, I am all about compassion. And there are people who are forced to live through some crazy pain and things
Yes.
of that sort. And when I was looking at that, that hurt me that would see like somebody with Lou Gehrig's disease and all these forced to go. And Dr. Kevorkian's like, I'll just give you a choice. And now how does that go with my Christianity and all that? I don't know. I think I have a compassionate God. So
I was very much a Kevorkian supporter because nobody's going to tell somebody else what their quality of life is. Now, if it was somebody my age who was in, I'll be 44 in February. And, if it was somebody my age that was just like, oh my God, I just can't live through this life anymore. And, whatever, I have a problem with that.
yeah, but if you're on your
But if
deathbed,
somebody with stage 4 cancer and trying to avoid living through an astronomical, painful life through the rest of their time here, dude, come on, man. It's just like an animal. Just let them go with some dignity, man. You
yeah.
know,
And
that's
so again, I've been taught through Christianity that suicide is bad and that if you commit suicide, you go to hell. I don't know the exact scriptures on that or the things to do with that. But man, I just really feel like my God is a compassionate God.
God don't want you living in agony and pain and stuff like that. You know, I
But
at least that's the way I feel. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't know
yep,
what
and we'll be judged for that at the
we'll be
end.
judged for that later.
So,
But the fact of the matter is, if somebody is living through something that's going to bring them terrible pain and a terrible amount of of just loss of quality of life.
Yep, your family having to change your diapers and all that stuff because
Nobody wants
you're
that.
just
No
in
one. I
pain.
don't care who you are.
So,
Nobody wants to live like that.
but that's where I ended up being a Jeffrey Feiger voter, and so that went together like that too. So I've always had that compassionate aspect to me when I came into it, and then I became a pretty much a Republican in 2000. And so when the Bush election, I was like, okay, I'm voting for Bush. I'm doing that because there's a lot of other things I like personal responsibility. I am all about personal responsibility. It's on you. If you want to get a better life, it's on you. It's not up to some papa government to say, you're alive, and just because you're alive, I'm going to give you everything you want. It's like, no, go earn it. Go make yourself better every day. And when you do that, you're going to start becoming more successful. That's when I started making the switch, and it just from there on out. But I don't support the GOP national party. I'm not in that realm. There's a platform that I support, and it's not the people, it's not the organization, it's the platform that has a lot of things I support. And that's where I'm a Republican. So
Now we kind of just totally went off in like left field and
oh
beyond,
yeah, so we all do.
and that's what people with ADHD do, which we are.
That's us.
That's us. But like, honestly, moving forward, where do you see your Republican Party able to
So
win
I
elections again? And by the way, I'm not a Republican. I'm just asking questions. I'm a political analyst at the end of the day. What are your personal things that would make the Republican Party seem a little more realistic and or move forward from the ultimate, tyranny that we're seeing now?
I think if they went with the platform that is in the Republican, you have to go with it. Smaller government, less spending, actually start doing these things. Freedom. Don't go ban bump stocks or this and that. That would bring back the, gun owners of America and these type of people to be on your side. Stop getting in your own way by going against the platform that the people like, and go look at the points of the platform, and you're going to agree with almost every one of them. But the problem is our politicians don't stick to it, and then they get butthurt when you point it out. I think that's what America First candidates. I'm around a lot of America First candidates all around the country.
What's their version of America First, though? That's my question: is what does America First mean?
So I'm going to go to something you can understand right now. You have a house. You're in your house right now. You're in your basement. This is yours. There are people you like that you want to help. If your house is on fire, do you go help your friends first, or do you put out the fire in your house to make sure you have a solid place to come from in assisting everyone else? We got to get rid of the globalism aspect that we should be responsible for everybody. Capitalism will do that. Capitalism will be responsible for everyone. When you have free capitalism, it pulls the life expectancy up. Everybody's quality of life goes up. It just changes everything. And
hold the phone for a minute then. As a Republican, what is your idea of free market capitalism?
right now we don't have a free market. There are regulations. There are people who put their thumb on the scale. There are people who say, you can't do this, you can't do that. I am for as little regulation as we can, but I don't want, let's just say, a single corporation that's run by a single bank, and then they get to run the whole country and have say in the laws and that. So I am a little bit for monopoly laws to an extent. But
check this out. In true free market capitalism.
Oh, you get to do whatever. Yeah.
And well, no, that's not the thing though. And especially in this era of social media and such, where people can just call your business or bank out at the drop of a dime. It's a different world now. I can totally see, 100 years ago, people being against capitalism because, of XYZ. I could totally see that, even though I am a free market capitalist. I am an absolute free market capitalist, though.
Well, what is the Keynesian economics? What is the free market in that?
The Keynesian economics is based off debt.
And
The
we
Austrian economics,
and right now, so we're going off debt, and that is not free market economics.
which,
That is
no, it's not
propped
at
up
all.
by the government and propped up by banks, and even the Bible talks about taking on debt. It's like, stay away from it. Don't do that.
Well, the fact of the matter is that, in true free market capitalism, there is failure. Banks will fail, corporations will fail.
Yep.
There's nothing you can do about that. That is true free market capitalism. There's no bailouts. Nobody's coming to save you. The
GM
market
shouldn't
works
exist right
itself
now.
out. What was that?
GM should not exist right now,
No, they should.
as it was, unless they got
Either
bought up by someone else.
Stellantis or Chrysler or whatever you want to call them now.
Yep.
They're the ones who took the bailouts. There's no bailouts in free market capitalism. This is what people misconstrue. And this is what Republicans and or Democrats fail to mention when it comes to free markets.
But what they do is they give to their friends, and their friends are the ones who give to the donations, and they make sure that their friends and their donations are there for the next election.
But in a free market policy,
Nope, there's none.
There are no friends. So like, you let the banks fail, you let the corporations fail. There's always somebody else who's going to come up and bring that up. Okay. That's my thing. I'm a free market absolute. I'm a free speech absolute. I'm a Second Amendment absolute. I'm a pro ninth.
Yeah, buy your neighbor a nuke for Christmas,
Dude, you should be able to have whatever the government has, whether it be nukes, tanks, grenades, whatever it may be.
I think the opposite of that is the government should be limited on what they have. Is that what did you go the opposite of that? Or do you think?
No,
there are some people from our high school that I could imagine them with a nuke, that's just.
Imagine people from our high school thinking that people like you and I would be political analysts or be somebody who's involved in so many things, whether it be, Republican, Democrat, third party bullshit, right? Nobody would have ever thought that in a million years.
Yeah, what did we say the other day? Imagine if we had told everyone in 1999 when we graduated that we were going to be some of the best read people in the graduating class. Yeah. These guys.
Yeah, they'd be like, these people are fucking clowns. They didn't know their head from their ass, and they were always in trouble. Well, at least for me, anyways.
Yeah, I wasn't in trouble. I was a good kid.
You were a good kid. You were definitely a good kid. But like, Will, we are in the most corrupt system we have ever seen, even in our lifetimes, dog. Like,
we got to shrink government. We have to shrink the national government.
But how do you think the Republican Party is going to do so?
They don't.
Because they literally are spineless, gutless, useless, feckless cowards that.
So again,
Democrats always.
If they went back to the platform, it'd be easy to support the national level people. Getting people who actually support the platform is the key to winning the populace. And I think that's why Donald Trump has more Hispanic and Black voters than most other Republicans in the past. He's saying, here is a platform. I'm going to try my best with, you have to fight Congress, you have to fight all that, but I'm going to try my best in this circle to be that. And that's where I think it goes. Now, I have other ideas of different things and different platforms that would take forever to get into, but I think you can be a conservative and also be the compassionate one. Like, I think we could bring down the cost of college by having all universities that get federal money to create a free online university. So if you're getting federal money, you need to participate in giving classes to this American university. Now everyone can take it for free. You don't have to go to college.
But nothing is free, Will.
And then this is why it's not free, because we're already paying Harvard, Yale, all these guys government money.
So
some
you're
of them are
saying
private.
use
So
that money. You're saying use the money they're already getting
to create the platform.
Instead of adding more.
Yeah. So they already are getting the money. We create let's just call it USA Online University. I'm just going to make it up. And so now as an American, you go onto usaonline.com. You already have these teachers recording their classes, making online classes. They have to provide them to the online university because we're already paying for it. So just give it. And so now I'm never going to go to Harvard or Yale, but maybe I would do the doctorate on the USA Free College. So the truth of the matter, you and I both know, nothing is going to change in terms of cutting budgets. It's just not going to happen unless everything collapses. We know it. So we have to come from a place of reality. The place of reality is, what can we do with the system we have now? So one thing could be make the online university run by all the schools that are state schools that get federal money, federal grants, all that. They have to participate. When you want to get your degree or your credits for your class, free market. You have testing centers where they make sure you're the right person. They have a test from the university. You take the test at their testing center. Now they know you passed. You pay for your testing. That's it. So we could have something that would build up an education system and keep people educated without having to spend more money. So I think that's one. Another thing would be the government shouldn't be owning land. That's not in our Constitution. They shouldn't own.
Hey, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there right now. How the fuck can a government who produces nothing give you something they can't produce?
Correct. So it's all taxpayer. So we own the
state land. If they call it state land, that's yours.
It's ours.
That's yours.
So, now, this was before COVID ever happened. One of our largest problems you see in LA, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, where densely populated places, things go amok. And people lose the ability to own things, to build themselves up and get it. Why don't we take the 600 million acres of land we have right now, parcel it out, and let people go have a chunk of land like we did back with the land rush back in the 1800s, just the Homestead Act. Do it again. We own 600 million acres of land. Why not help our fellow Americans depopulate cities so we don't have the spread of diseases like that happens when you get more and more people together? We can spread it out. Now you're going to have areas where people need construction workers. They need infrastructure built, house built. You can upgrade the internet system so we can become more like South Korea with the 5G everywhere, or Saudi Arabia. We'd be building a new America with the most modern technology and helping those fellow Americans create more of an American dream for all of us. A rising tide lifts all boats. So I wouldn't qualify for a parcel of land, but somebody living in Chicago, they might, because you could do it by density. Like, we're going to have a lottery of people in density. They get a parcel of land. If they sell it, they sell it. If they build on it, they build on it.
Yeah, but here's the catch. How are you going to push something forward like that when a majority of the Republican tribe does not believe in that?
See, this is our problem is if Republicans
that
would
sounds
stick,
great.
If Republicans would stick to the platform of smaller government, that would mean the government owning less. So let's give it back to the people of the United States. And now landowners have more quality of that they're going to be able to put forward in the rest of life. And so I would, we just have to look at it from being like, what can we do to lift the tide of everyone without spending more, without making it a welfare state, because welfare doesn't help anyone. You need to help people be successful, not just give them money every month for being alive. So what can help being? You depopulate. Now there's the jobs in the cities are like, you have more opportunity to get a job because there's fewer people fighting you for it. I have a list. I have a whole list of things I would do to shrink government, get government less involved, and to just be as free as we can.
But my question is, how are you going to get a majority of the Republican Party to believe in something like that when they do nothing but believe in more government in the first place?
Yeah, see, that's my problem with the mainstream candidates that keep getting elected by the big money. So money elects people. That's just how it is.
That's
Someplace
exactly how it is. Ask Larry Sharp.
Yeah, so money elects people, and that's the bottom line of it. And so I had an idea about elections that you can't give to a candidate. You have to give to a pool. So imagine this, like I want to donate money for people to get elected. I want to give $10 million, but the $10 million goes into a pool that gets split to everyone who qualified for the ballot. And so you can't give directly to a candidate. So you can't own a candidate. What's going to happen? People aren't going to give money because you can't just dictate who it goes to. Now it becomes a more fair process, or it becomes people start doing illegal things like showing up with a blank checkbook, offering jobs and things of that sort. So we have
Or
to
just take X amount of dollars to get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
Like we just saw with Kari Lake and DeWitt.
Correct. So then it has to resort to that. But at least in that, if you accept the money, then I didn't need you anyway. So we're going to be in the same place. So there's the different aspects. Like we're just in such a bad place right now. And
America's in a bad place.
And I don't know what major thing is going to happen to reset. I don't want the great reset that the World Economic Forum is talking about. I don't want any of that. But we spend too much money. We borrow too much money. We make too much money. And we have way too much welfare, and that's not to poor people. That's to corporations, banks, and these things. I mean, the welfare system for the poor people is backwards. It incentivizes staying down instead of helping you get out. And as soon as, let's just say, I'll use my sister for an example. She was getting help with her son and with medical and all that, ADHD, borderline autistic. As soon as she started working, they take everything away. Why not help someone get on their feet fully and all that? Our system is just backwards. So we're in a big problem. And we can sit and pontificate and all that, or we go get involved. We go get candidates we like. We go to work for them. We go and get what we can done to try to change the system from within. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years. I said, these are people I like. I'm going to get behind them and I'm going to help them succeed. And it hasn't, it's not an easy road. You got to be good at everything, networking, marketing, all of it to make it come together to even have chances and possibilities. But it's going to be a Herculean fight. And we just either you fight or you sit back and you just get walked on.
Now, would you say that, because we do agree on the central bank thing, you believe as a Republican that competitive currencies and decentralization of money is a huge way out of this?
Not out of the problems we're in. The problems we're in is because only a few people have power. When it really comes down to it, a handful of people get to dictate what happens in this country. And people want to blame it on billionaires, like Elizabeth Warren's like, oh, it's the billionaires' fault. Most billionaires aren't involved in the politics like this. Some of them, like the Koch brothers were, or George Soros, or this and that, those are the ones. It's a few people kind of dictate what happens. So I'm a fan of competitive currencies. I'm a fan of Bitcoin or Ripple or those existing. I still think a lot of it's gambling. They're treating it like stocks right now. It's not viable as a currency for most of the coins, most of the altcoins and all that. But we need to have full competition. Competition is always good. And we need full competition across the board on everything. And My worry is the dollar's going to be purposely crashed because our debt is so big. The only way to pay it off is hyperinflation. So if I own, or if I'm in debt by $32 trillion, and now all of a sudden a loaf of bread costs $2 million, 32 trillion means nothing. 34. It means nothing. And so now if the equivalent of $1 is now a million, like Venezuela, okay, I can pay off my debt. It means nothing. And that's the way they're going to have to kind of get themselves out. But it will open the door, say, we're done with the US dollar. We're now having a central currency in cahoots with the EU, and we're just going to have this, world digital currency. I'm not worried about the central bank digital currency as I am about the WDC, the world digital currency, where they just say, we're going to trade oil in this. This is.
Well, that's what's happening now, though. Is like, it's not about the CBDC. It is about the WDC.
Yeah. And so.
And it's only because of countries that have started the BRICS system, ICS. Look it up if you want. There's multiple countries in that, which will be backed by the gold.
Brazil, Russia, India, China is what it's named after, I think.
Oh, no, there's more, though.
No, that's what it's named. The name, BRIC.
Oh, okay.
Brazil, Russia, India, China.
Which in itself, China and Russia joining forces? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that's bad for world freedom.
That's bad for everyone. That is bad for anyone in any country of any political spectrum. This is bad. And what's even worse is the countries that are not involved in the BRIC system are actively trying to get out of the petrodollar.
It's if the petrodollar leaves, yeah, we're on the edge. If countries pull out of the petrodollar, our U.S. dollar is worthless because now that 34 trillion is out there. It's available, and so now supply and demand, nobody needs a dollar anymore.
Which is actually very nice to hear a Republican acknowledge that.
Oh, a lot of Republicans think it. I'm telling you,
nobody's speaking out about it. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump just came out in his first press conference speaking of the CBDC. He is an active presidential candidate who just heard about the CBDC thanks to Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, and so
you need to know this shit if you're running for office. You need to understand where the monetary system is when you're running for office. The guy is clueless.
What's interesting is my congressman here is French Hill. He's actually head of the banking committee, and he is one of the ones pushing to regulate Bitcoin and push towards some more centralized U.S. controlled digital currency. It's ridiculous. I don't know if Michael White's running or not, but I know he's been on top of that. Like when I ran against French Hill, and I didn't run, I was campaign manager, but these are the things that I was hearing Michael White bring up back in that too. He's like, French Hill is bad because he's going to XYZ, and now he's doing it.
Which is another thing is like, hey, Republicans are joining the force of this CBDC. I don't think people understand how bad the CBDC is.
We have to be against it because
it solidifies the enslavement of the American people. We
saw Canada. We saw what happened in Canada with the truckers. They just turned off their money.
Yeah.
And so if we're at a U.S. controlled digital wallet, they say, you know what, Sean, I don't like that you spoke out against this new world war in Iran, so your wallet is no longer active. We can't have that. We can't.
Not to mention, they could charge you a tax for every time you use it in a store. So it'd be another form of taxation. Nobody even looks at that. Like each
transaction.
Like CVS says, hey, we're going to charge you to use this CBDC. They can do that.
So what's it called in Brazil, Gracie, where people can send money to each other? Pix. There's something in Brazil called Pix.
Like Western Union.
It's like Zelle.
Yes.
So you could send it, but these are for people with no banks. So it's controlled where I can send you to your account. You don't have to have a bank. You don't have to have any of this. So now people can pay with tap to pay, or you can text people money and things like that. So it's like Apple Pay, all that rolled into something. But the government there, so Bolsonaro got this started and it was going well and people are loving it. And they've been, it was supposed to be for individual transactions and things like that. So now the government has come in. If you have X amount of transactions received, we're going to start taxing that. So now they got their hand in it, just like what's going to happen with the digital currency. Well, we're going to tax transactions. You've had over $1 million in transactions, so that puts you at a 25% transaction fee. I mean, just the control of the government. Government shouldn't be controlling anything. The people should be controlling. It should be a free market control. We should go back to gold bullion and just get out of it.
Absolutely. Amen to that. And it
So,
is nice to hear Republicans say that. We
I'm telling
need
you,
to get back on the gold standard. The gold standard did not allow the government to make or to print money beyond their means. It was impossible under that standard.
yep.
It was impossible. You couldn't do it. Richard Nixon in 1971 took us off the gold standard. Well after the Bretton Woods Agreement, which that son of a bitch fucking oh shit. Not LBJ. Not LBJ.
Before
Oh,
him,
FDR. I'm sorry. FDR brought in the Bretton Woods Agreement. What?
So
Give the money back to the citizens of America, for fuck's sake.
back when Rome used to print coins, it wasn't the name Rome that gave the coin value. It was the material the coin was made out of. We switched in the 1900s that the name the United States is what gave it value. And so that gave us paper currency that we could use where the name is what had the value. That is all predicated on the debt. So now if you had $1, that means the government owed you $1. That's what it meant. $1 worth of gold, $1 worth of silver. That's why we had silver certificates, any of that. And then it just became where, it's just, we have A+ credit. So we're good for that. It's a promissory note is all it is. Our currency are promissory notes. We never have anything of value. Until you spend that and have something tangible, you never have it. It's not worth anything tangible. Like, so you need to buy things. So buy gold, buy silver, buy the money sitting still doing nothing is just imaginary. And as soon as we had the hyperinflation, if you don't have assets, you're in trouble.
Which hyperinflation will happen as soon as they declare war in the Middle East. It's going to happen.
Just think of Bill Gates. Let's just go with Elon Musk. What's he have? $12 billion or 120 billion. I mean, if hyperinflation happens, what's 120 billion mean? It's like, okay, I can buy 89 loaves of bread. It means nothing. So now without assets, it's nothing. But his is all stock. I'm just using that as an example. If it were cash, it would absolutely mean nothing. So people need to own things. Money sitting in a bank account right now is the worst you can be doing with your money. You need to, for one, pay off all your debts. Don't be in debt. Get rid of it all. If you don't read read Ramsey's book about getting out of debt and the debt snowball. Pay off your smallest ones. Move that monthly budget up. Keep your budget the same. Build a savings account. Just enough for a couple of months of no work. And then make sure you have assets, which could be bonds or things that are guaranteed or just not all cash. Cash is not good. So get out of debt and get tangible items. Buy
Amen.
Gold. Have a safe full of gold.
Amen to that. But you say all these things about, needing to get the government out of the way of markets and such,
and getting back to owning physical assets, things that actually have value.
But how are we going to allow such things when the Republican Party doesn't necessarily allow such things?
That this is where, again, you get with people you support and you put what you can into it. And you get the right people, vet them, make sure they're the ones you want elected, and you go and just help as much as you can. Help them build an army. You help your candidate build an army and they can win, they can overtake it. You know, when I was a campaign manager, I had a thing called Forward 40. I would tell people, look, they would say, oh, I like your candidate. I said, okay, real fast, take a picture of this. It'd be like the card with his information. Text it to 40 of your friends right now. And I would stand there and like see if they would just start texting people. So Forward 40, like you like his message, send it to 40 people you know who can vote for him.
Right.
Then if you get people, once they do that, now they're committed to vote because now they've just told their friends. And you got to get people, the right people, you have to give them the tools and the help that they need. And with the Republican Party that's in place, with the current Republican establishment, this stuff isn't going to change. It's going to be status quo every day. So you have to flip the Republican Party from the top, like get the top flipped. And it's happening. It's slow. The problem with, I'm going to air quote, patriots is, or that they have, the establishment, the problem they have with patriots is we want immediate, like stop giving in, stop going to war, stop funding, attacking Iran, or like we just lost 2 Navy SEALs attacking Iran the other day. And nobody's talking about it.
3.
Like 3 now. Okay. Yeah, 3. And so they're gone forever. They've lost their lives. But again, the establishment, the Nikki Haley's, the Schumer's in the Democrat side and the McConnell's on the Republican side, they want to keep their friends at Boeing and Raytheon and US Bank and Citibank and all these people that are on the boards of those companies happy. So we need to have a $800 trillion budget for war, but don't care about home. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that a majority of Americans are like, yo, we don't want this. We don't want any more wars. We don't want any more of this conflict. We've seen enough, especially, think about people in our generation, dude. Like they literally destroyed our generation with endless war and endless money printing. And now they're doing it verbatim to our generation's kids.
But look, when we were graduating high school, we had 0 national debt by the time we graduated high school.
That's a lie.
Our national debt was, compared to what it is now, we were going to work on budget surpluses. We were setting it up.
He inherited about $5.5 trillion of debt when he got into office.
Okay, so, but when we graduated, I'm talking about when we graduated, 97, 98, not 99, 100, because they started bailing out the dot-com bust.
Right.
So I'm talking about before that, we had the Republicans and Bill Clinton, a Democrat, actually put in a balanced budget with a surplus. And we were getting our national debt down. Then the dot-com bust happened and free market just went out the window. Let's just bail everybody out. Yep. Then George Bush comes. The dot-com is getting worse. 9/11 happens. And then everybody gets mailed a check $1,000 or whatever it was. And now all of a sudden.
Which is exactly why people don't understand. The dot-com bust is a direct correlation to 9/11.
It's
people
so many, but long story short is 97, 98, 99, when we were graduating, they were finally getting rid of the national debt. It was going to be something. And then banks decided, nah, that's not going to happen. We got to bail these people out. The donors got behind. We got to bail. All this stuff is crashing. We got to prop the stock market up. We can't let a crash happen like 1989. We can't let these happen. Then the national debt comes back and it hasn't stopped since. We had our shot, and they blew it. The Republicans, the Democrats, everyone blew it. We should have had a balanced budget amendment. It should say the government can never spend more than it takes in. And then we need an amendment to cap how much it can take in.
The gold standard would have protected that. What you
Oh.
just said, the
Yep.
gold standard would have taken care of that.
Yeah, we can't be living on debt. We should only be living on our actual assets. And now, I'm going to throw on my Alex Jones tinfoil hat here. But is there any gold left in Fort Knox? Have we seen the gold in Fort Knox?
Yes, we have. And I can tell
Okay.
you why. I can tell you why. Because every time when they raise, and this is foolproof, you can look it up. You could totally look it up. Anytime that they raise interest rates, that's when the Chinese, the US, and the Russian governments are buying copious amounts of gold.
Yeah.
There's no secret in that. There's no secret.
No. We buy the gold, but do we have what we're supposed to have in terms of backing up the government in Fort Knox?
No, you can't. It's impossible.
Yeah. And
It's
so
impossible.
the gold in Fort Knox, like we always imagine, like it's the bars, it's loaded, ceiling to floor, vaults full of this and that. I know the government buys, but they also sell. And they also use it, it moves. It's dark. A lot of US dark money rolls around. All of a sudden we have 37 trillion unaccounted for here and there and there and there. So gold isn't stockpiling. It's just not there as we're only buying. So when it's coming one way, you got to think when the interest rates change, it's going the other way.
Well, yeah, and they want it to go the other way. That's the thing, though. That's the thing that people really do not understand is they want things going away from America so they can curry in more votes to bring in things to America. The cycle never continues. The American government, the United States government, is not only a cartel, it's also the biggest monopoly on violence, period. And they're a murder cult. And there's nobody in this world that can debate me into believing otherwise.
All I know is we are constantly doing the bidding of the bottom line of other companies. And those companies are controlled by boards, and those boards are controlled by big banks. And we're constantly doing the bidding for these. So for Raytheon, Boeing, all these companies, we need to be sending our, I air quote, need to be sending our bombs to the Middle East because that's creating jobs and profits in the Maryland, DC area. And so
it's the scratch and back things they talked about in the Kari Lake recording.
It is. So when you're against war, that's almost the first deal breaker. When you're against the central bank, that's the next deal breaker. And when you're for the gold standard, now they don't want you at all. They're going to do everything they can to fight you. They're going to use lawfare against you. They're going to do whatever it takes to make sure you can't get elected. And that's one of the things about Donald Trump and the three big things. He had called for a gold standard. He had wanted to avoid new wars and de-escalate places. Like ISIS disappeared in 7 months when he became president. All of a sudden ISIS didn't exist. It was the weirdest thing. Like they had never existed because
that's what the media wanted you to believe, though.
And so I know people over in the Middle East and people who have spent a lot of time in the Middle East. The ISIS with their brand new Toyota trucks, all this stuff. As soon as Trump got in and started playing hardball with these countries, it was gone, man.
Then why did Trump give in to the neocons when it came to Yemen and Syria?
So that's because of Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, it's a longer story.
Well, I know, but he gave in. I do agree that Trump was anti-war to a point. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, no new wars for the United States, but we would still provide. And we provided a lot of the stuff, but that's a Saudi Arabian proxy war. And like it or not, Saudi Arabia has us by the short hairs. And
so does Israel, though. Nobody speaks goddamn word about Israel.
So we were going to get out of Saudi Arabia having so much power by us building up our oil reserves, by us drilling, by us being the energy leader of the world. And we had finally got there in 2019, the end of 19. And then guess what happens a couple months later? COVID. Now all of a sudden the super virus comes out of nowhere and we build up our stockpiling more, but the price of oil drops. When that price of oil drops so much, you can no longer pay the workers to drill to get it. And it decentivizes oil companies in America to keep drilling. And so now all of a sudden we had our reserves and stuff. Now we're selling our reserves. We've emptied them out. We sold it to Venezuela, of all people, and China and Russia. We're selling them our oil reserves. And now we're relying on the Middle East again for oil. It's a cycle and it's all backwards. And it all goes back to nobody really wants to solve the problem when it comes to the national parties.
Well, nobody wants to solve any problems, period.
And that's why it takes Americans to not be sheep. And I don't say that like, oh, you're sheeple, but people vote for the one they think is going to win. Psychologically, you want to be on the side of the winner. But they also vote for the people who they see on TV the most. Who's the biggest star, celebrity value? So you have a person like who everyone knows, like a Donald Trump, and maybe a lot of people might have voted for him just because they knew his name and he was a celebrity. So these are the things that people have to wake up. You have to really know who you want to vote for, and you have to help them build an army.
So I think that we need to help Americans realize that the major problem lies within the central banks, and that everything that we do as an American nation, whether it be war or
you couldn't do it without the central bank print money.
Couldn't, because the central banks, dude, as we speak right now, and knock yourselves out. You can call me conspiracy theory all you want. The central banks are literally funding both sides of the wars right now.
It's one thing I know. Just dig into quantitative easing for them on an episode here. Get into quantitative easing and what it really means, and it shows you how the central bank is creating companies, building them up and propping them up, and just putting the thumb on the scale of a free market. When you dig into that, it starts, everything else starts kind of making sense.
Well, you brought up Michael White earlier, and Michael White's my homeboy. Like we text, we talk, we're homies, right? And he pointed something out on the last show we did together that, we wouldn't beat down Iraq's door, not over weapons of mass destruction, but because the Iraqis wanted to use the Iraqi dinar as their currency.
I see a lot of the air quote conspiracy theories on things like what was it, Gaddafi? Gaddafi was trying to build a different kind of currency for Africa based on gold and all that, and then Hillary got him killed and bragged about it. It's just a coincidence that he was working on these things with no central bank and wanting gold-backed money, but
Well, even think about countries like Somalia. Somalia was living a complete anarchist lifestyle, which, by the way, is not perfect. There's nothing ever perfect. Look at our statist lifestyle. I think an anarchist lifestyle would take over a statist lifestyle any day of the week and twice on Sunday. But like, dude,
I've been to some third world countries, and I see kind of what it looks like when there is no real government support, and it's you getting robbed on the corner a lot. Just, but in a way, I'm going to counter that because only bad people have guns in those countries.
Surprise, surprise.
And so when let's just go to Brazil. I've been to Brazil a lot, and people get robbed on buses frequently. I think I was told by Gracie that they have decoy phones. Some people have bus phones and real phones and things that they don't want to get stolen because they live like that. But it's an unarmed populace. Only the bad guys have guns. And so the citizens are stuck in the middle of that. So I just talked with Eduardo Bolsonaro, the son of the ex-president, the other day. I guess it's been a couple of months now. It was in December. but he was talking about that. He wants the Brazilian people to have the same rights to guns, so everybody has them, and not just the bad guys, not just the cartels, not just the drug dealers, and not just the government.
Well, I mean, guns are the greatest equalizer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Like,
What was the Detroit police chief? He told people, he said, someone kicks down your door, blow their brains out.
yeah,
He said, arm yourself. If they kick in your door, blow them up, and they won't go robbing people's houses anymore.
yeah.
And I hate the loss of life. I don't want anyone getting shot. What I'm hoping is somebody would
So
say,
the
you know what?
moment you violate
Sean has a
private property,
gun.
all bets are off.
Yeah, Sean has a gun, so I'm not going. I hope they become deterrents. That's what an armed citizenry is against the government. It's a deterrent. When everybody is armed, you can say, you know what? I might not want to mess with them. I've always heard this quote, and I've never been able to confirm that it's true, but like the Chinese would say, we wouldn't invade America because they would have a gun behind every blade of grass. And so it's a deterrent. And it's, again, Ronald Reagan, what, peace through strength. And so if you're armed and people know, you know, everyone might be armed, so I'm not going to go try to attack these people because I might get shot doing it, and I'd rather not get shot. So,
well, an armed society is a polite society, period.
yeah.
You know, there's a lot to be said about that saying, because, you know, people will think twice about, you know, doing harm to somebody else if they think that, you know, said person is armed to the point where they could kill them if they tried to pull something funky.
Yeah, if you're not suicidal, like a lot of these mass shooters, they're just suicidal. If you're not suicidal, you're not trying to get shot. So you're going after soft targets. You're going for gun-free zones. You're going for, you know, which there should be no such thing as a gun-free zone, because when do you stop a constitution for a certain area? You know, like, hey, you know what?
Oh, man, you brought up the Constitution,
So,
which I love that the right wing, you know, they hold on to the Constitution so much to where, like, somebody like me is, I'm not a big believer. I think the Constitution is actually some words on paper at this point.
So I love the Constitution, not because, but everyone has the wrong aspect of what the Constitution is. People say the Constitution gives me this. The Constitution gives me this. The Constitution gives me this.
Doesn't give you anything.
No, the Constitution was the limits on the government. It was nothing about what we have. It was a limit on the government. The government can only do X, Y, Z. And then they listed specific ones that said, no matter what, you're not going to infringe on these because God gave you these rights, not the government. And so people look at the Constitution like, well, the Constitution gives me the right to religion.
But
No.
why has the Constitution given us the largest government ever in the history of
Because they stopped following the Constitution. That's the problem. Thomas Jefferson was the biggest constitutionalist of the time. And then he went and bought the Louisiana Purchase. The government had no right to negotiate that deal with Napoleon to buy that. So that just went against the Constitution right there. So the limits that were set haven't been followed. If we went back to the limits that were set, we would have a very, very, very small national government, and the states would be making their own decisions.
Which is what people like Ron Paul, like,
he was a constitutionalist. He was a constitutionalist. Everything he wanted was to shrink that government and stop doing the things it's not supposed to be doing.
Ron Paul gave us a bunch of minarchists, which for somebody like me, a minarchist society would be a godsend compared to what we have now.
So for me, I think the centralized aspect of the federal government just is to be like an arbitrator or arbiter between states. So, you know, Arkansas doesn't want to open the freeway between Oklahoma. Let's talk it out. Let's have that. That's kind of what it should be. It shouldn't be a ruling thing. We should not be ruled in any way, and we are ruled right now.
The Constitution, the way it's drawn out, is that each state can run as it deems necessary. And we do not have that to this date.
No,
We have
they've
federal
given up.
government in involving themselves in every state matter, every local matter, which is wrong. That's not, if you
But-
are a constitutional person, that's not the way it's worked out, period.
It shouldn't. And the problem is people give up their responsibility so they're not on the hook. So I'd rather have the federal government do it instead of me being the one that has to make the decision or this, that. So they've given their power to other people instead of. So that's what's interesting about the Texas situation is they're pulling some of that back. They're saying, you know what? We've been giving you the responsibility of securing Texas's border, but no longer. Texas is taking that responsibility back. And that's where this is getting interesting because we're going to see who's going to stand up for what. And is the federal government going to say, no, you're opening the border and you're going to tear this down? Or the people of Texas going to say, you don't have a right in the Constitution. Well, the Supreme Court said XYZ. The Supreme Court said the government has the right to tear down anything on a border. They didn't say Texas has to stop. They didn't say Texas has to stop building or stop protecting. They just said the U.S. government can. But where do we get to a point where we say, I don't care what you tell me, this is what's happening? And we're going to see that in Texas, I think.
Well, which is what we're seeing in Texas right now. But I've also called out the fact that, Texas is not ready to secede. They're not nowhere near. Just 2 years ago when they had that big snowstorm, they were begging for federal assistance.
Every red state is a welfare state of the federal government.
Yeah, period.
It's just how it is. In Arkansas, here, they get the farm subsidies. It's the farm subsidies that fund like so much of the state. And we would be at a net negative if we weren't getting federal government. But now, and what's turning around is Arkansas starting to have billion-dollar surpluses, which means the people are taxed too much here in Arkansas. But it might start helping get off the teat of DC. And Arkansas was one of the states that said, we're going to send National Guard to Texas and assist them.
Well, there was 25 states that backed Texas.
And then like 10 have sent.
10 of them have sent military aid and funding to Texas.
So
back that.
So we're going to see if anything will ever change. But the problem is the people who are doing this are establishment type people. And so really, I think it's going to, most of it's posturing for political negotiation. And it's going to get me more votes because I just sent a couple of people to Texas. So I'm going to get more votes. So we're going to see what happens.
They do, which is everything they do. It's to curry votes and raise money. There's nothing new under the sun. We'll keep saying, I'll say that a million times on this show. But dude, like, do I believe in open borders? Yes, I do believe in open borders because my family happens to be a bunch of border jumpers themselves. Okay. What I am anti is the free shit that comes along with it. You can come here. That's fine.
But you're on your own.
Pay your own way. You're on your own. That's what it is.
I'm for registering to come here. Like Ellis Island, my ancestors stopped, registered. I'm coming from Ireland because we're Scots-Irish. And so coming from Ireland, we stop, we are processed. I know who's coming, where you're going, and that. Not just no protection, anybody can come, foreign armies sending soldiers over to open borders.
I don't think that's happening. I think that is a media-driven bullshit. I think that
I've been to Arizona. I've been to Arizona, and people, I mean, it's crazy down there. The people coming across, going through people's yards. It's nonstop. It is nonstop. People not going through the proper checkpoint, and I don't like that. And I know someone.
It's not. It's selective borders. It's not open.
Yeah, it's not open border, but people know how to get around the proper checkpoints. They're not filing with that they're here, and that's where we need to be. We need to have checkpoints where people say, okay, who's coming in and this and that. my wife is an immigrant, and obviously I like immigration. I like immigrants, and I want good people to come here and be a productive
Is
society.
she American citizen because you married?
Now she is, yeah. No, not because we're married. It took years and years of process. It's
Right,
just not,
right.
it's not immediate. And so, what I want is control of knowing who's here
But
and
they've been doing that for decades. This is, dude, this is nothing new.
No, it's not new. We made, Ronald Reagan had an agreement in, I think it's 1988, 89, made 6 million people eligible to be citizens, and we were supposed to secure the border after that. Now, man, I forget how many, I think they're estimating 14 million undocumented illegal people in the country right now. And so for me,
what stops this?
get rid of
You get rid of the free shit, and you don't have. This isn't even a conversation.
No,
if you
I'm going to tell you
all the free shit. We're not talking about this at all.
No, the way we could stop people coming like this is if you didn't go through the right process, you can't work. If we would start going after the people hiring the undocumented people, then people will go through the process. But our process is bad right now.
Only I 1 million undocumented Americans on some of my construction crews. Does that make me bad, or does that make me not want to pay workers' comp?
That's between you and Caesar. So,
but that's what I'm saying, though.
And so, I think we need to have documentation of who is here, and if we wanted to stop people from coming, 100%, your kids aren't going to school, because we're not paying the bill for you, but we shouldn't have the national education stuff anyway. But the federal government's not paying that bill of your child going to school. You're not getting welfare. You're not getting a phone. You're not getting anything. But this is kind of a misnomer, though, because most of the illegal immigrants, I know a lot because I'm, just the friends I hang out with and the places I've been, they're hardworking people.
Yeah.
So we should be allowing people to come here more than we do right now with the 1 million cap, I think. But we need to have, we just need to know who's coming. We need to know who's here. And that's where I'm going to go.
But they're worried about who's coming here. They're saying, all these people from the cartel are coming here, right?
The people from the cartel don't come here.
The largest cartel in the world is the United States. It's not even close.
But it's another devil. So we're okay with our devil. We don't want somebody else's. We're okay with the devil we know. We don't want another devil coming. That's the American mantra. That's why third-party candidates don't get elected. Well, you know what? I know Mitch McConnell. I know what I'm getting with him. I don't know what I'm going to get with Joe Johnson, the libertarian. So I'm just going to vote with the devil I know.
Third parties don't get elected. You can't have, here's my argument with everything, because I know that the central banks run all of it, right? You're not going to have a candidate that's saying, hey, we need to end the Federal Reserve, get out there, mainstream platform. They're not going to have it.
No, because their candidate will have $32 million in donations overnight. Their opponent, their opponent will just
This is what I'm saying. So, to say the election system isn't rigged is beyond,
it's rigged in many ways. It's rigged in many ways.
People don't even know how bad it's rigged.
But the machines make it easier. I think the machines make it easier. There's going to be backdoors.
I believe in what you're doing in Arkansas to bring back hand-counted ballots. I think everything should be hand-counted. I think that, to keep elections, somewhat honest, because there's a way to fix everything.
Everything.
Let's just make it easier.
Well, we need to make everything transparent and make it where it has to be a huge conspiracy to rig an election, because you're going to have the counters in on it. You're going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of people involved in the planning of fixing an election. If you have hand-marked, hand-counted ballots.
You got to be able to track those tax dollars, who's going to pay said people to do such things.
Yep. But I got to wrap it up because I got places to be. So
yeah, man. Thank you.
Enjoy the conversation.
Where can we find you? Tell us where we can find you.
Well, right now, I'm working for avii.org. And if you care about paper ballots and hand counts, go check that out and see what we're doing and the work we're doing.
Awesome, man. Until next time, Will Huff, thank you for your time. Be good, brother.
All right.
We'll be back in touch.